Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Buff City Central podcast. Today, we got two special guests with us. We got Hannah and Kanisha. They are from Best Self here in Buffalo, New York. And I want to really ask you guys about like your experience, how y'all got to the place you are now, and what it's like working at Best Self.
Yeah. So this is my first full year working at Best Self. I am the social emotional coordinator with our Building Brighter Futures program. So my role is to go specifically into South Park High School. And what I do is I work with the kids during the day and after school. And I offer social emotional support. So whether it's academic support, social emotional pieces, whether it's coping skills, communication, healthy relationships, any kind of stuff like that. I work with an individual caseload, and then after school, we put on our after school program through 21st Century. So offering academic support, tutoring, special enrichments, things like that to kind of give the kids an outlet, give them opportunity, and kind of really give them that support that they don't always get outside of school. So that's kind of my role. I've been with South Park for a few years now, so I really kind of get to know like the culture and the diversity and all that kind of stuff. So it's been really cool to see, obviously post-pandemic, how the kids are acting, getting to interact with them and kind of put together these programs to really support them. One of the things I got to do this year was implement teen mental health first aid. So working with 10th, 11th, and 12th graders in the school, giving them kind of the resources and support to help themselves and friends who might be struggling with mental health. Obviously, they can't diagnose, but they can recognize warning signs, symptoms, all that kind of stuff to really kind of help themselves and their friends, whoever's struggling, which we all know mental health has really been impacted post-COVID. So giving them those opportunities to really help link themselves, link their friends with professional support to really kind of decrease those mental health crises. So that is something that we got to implement this year at South Park. So I'm really excited to kind of move forward next year and hit some more kids with that. So it's very important, I think, to give those kids that opportunity.
Tell us about yourself.
Do I work for myself?
So just a little background. So Kanisha's with me this summer at our Best Self location as part of the Erie County Summer Youth Program.
Yes.
So we kind of grabbed her from school and made her kind of work with us this summer. So right now she is working with us at one of our Say Yes Best Self summer camps that we put on every summer. So she is our summer youth intern, but obviously I've worked with her this past school year. So she's technically Best Self staff right now, but just kind of an extra support working hands-on with the kids at summer camp. But you can kind of, who are you?
Well, my name is Kanisha, but I prefer Nisha. I go to South Park High School. I drill for Gravity's drill team. This summer, I'm working with Best Self. I go there every Wednesdays. They talk about how to manage your money, how to save your money, how to help a friend, depression. It's just a lot of stuff that I learned from Best Self. The main thing I learned about like working with kids at a summer camp is you got to be really patient with them. Yeah. Really patient. And so
she's killing it. I mean, she's taken the things that she's learning through the Erie County Summer Youth Program, plus our time together, like life skill stuff when she's with us on Wednesdays, but implementing it into the kids at camp. So she's really taken on a leadership role at camp. So for someone 16 who's only been working with kids for this summer, it's been really cool to see her grow and kind of learn the skills that we are trying to teach them and implementing it with the kids. And all the kids seem to really love having her around. So it's been super awesome.
What does it feel like to have, those kids and being in that position?
So I sometimes babysit my nieces and nephews, so I'm really used to it. But like dealing with other kids that I've never seen before, and I'm learning different emotions. Some of them are really talented. Some of them have trouble reading, and I just learn a lot from them. Sometimes when I have like leftover stuff at home, I'll give it to them, like cupcakes, candy. She swear I buy it with my money, but I don't. I just do that just to, so not for them to like me, but like so they can do good here. I know. Sometimes I get a teacher a break when she's like really frustrated. I play like I made up a game like the captain's coming or the floor is lava, stuff like that, and it really keeps them entertained and busy, and it gives them a break, and yeah. So I really really enjoy my job there, and I really want to do it next summer.
Have you had like certain realizations or experiences that led you to kind of change your mind on certain things when dealing with the youth?
Experiences?
Yeah. Like some things that popped out to you that you didn't like notice when you're like being the leader?
I don't know. I don't know.
I would say for me, one thing you said was patience, right?
Mm-hmm.
And for me, when I would watch Over Youth when I was younger, kind of doing similar to the same thing, was that for me personally, was to be more emotionally responsive, as opposed to, I would say, much more logically responsive. Being more empathetic and putting myself in other shoes. For me, that would be one thing. Have you had that kind of like, what's your realization with dealing with the youth and yours?
Yeah, I think one of our big things that we always talk about is looking at the bigger picture of things. So we might be able to work with a kid and they might have behaviors, they might act out, they might have all these things on the outside. But I always tell our summer youth kids that you have to kind of think of what's happening on the inside and what's happening outside of camp, right? Because we don't always know just by looking at a kid what their home environment looks like or what's going on through their heads or what they're seeing outside of camp. So I always kind of encourage them to have that patience, right? And just kind of think about what they could be experiencing maybe outside of camp. So when they do come in camp, we have a little bit more understanding of why they're maybe having a tantrum or why they're acting out or why they're bawling their eyes out for X, Y, and Z reasons. So I think that's something that Kanisha's kind of really focused on this year. And I think she's picking up on those emotional cues, like you said. I mean, there have been times where she senses the frustration from the students or they're arguing or fighting or whatever it is and taking them out from the classroom, having a sit down, talking to them, working through whatever the issue is, sending them back to class, and they're a whole different child when they go back, right? Yeah. So I think she's been really good of recognizing those cues and kind of, okay, how do I go from A to B? Yeah. So I think that's something that's been cool to see.
Yeah, like the home environment, I feel like it's under the microscope of like the human being, right? I don't think the home environment is looked at heavily. And you mentioned coping mechanisms earlier. So what are some of those things that, what are some of those coping mechanisms that you've learned through the program? And part two, what are some of those that you practice yourself?
I'm sorry, coping? I don't know what that means.
So we've talked about coping skills, right? So like around the little kids or even at 768 when we're doing our team mental health first aid, right? So you're learning ways to kind of manage your emotions, right? So a coping skill overarching, how do we, if we're feeling sad, angry, upset, whatever that looks like, what can we do to change those emotions to where we're feeling a little bit better?
Oh, well, what I would do, I would take them out in the hallway and they would tell me like what happened at home or what happened this, what happened that. And I take from when I learned in school or when I was little that I used to do it, and I take it and I tell them about it. And then they take it and, do what I said. Like, for example, like I'll tell them they'll be really upset about how, like, what if a new girl come and, they take it from, it just stuff from, like, middle school or, And I would just say, like, when I used to do in school is I used to pull them to the side and talk to them about how I felt. And, she was like, I never did that. I'm not really comfortable. But I made them comfortable as to telling them how they feel. And, yeah.
Oh, so you bring that emotional side out of people when they're uncomfortable doing it.
I just make them express their feelings in front of them. But sometimes they don't want to do it in front of their friends. Sometimes they want me to do it for them. But I don't make them do it but themselves. I just it's better off if you do it because if it's coming from me, it'll,
Yeah.
Especially for a young age because I have 7, 8-year-olds in my classroom. So they know stuff, but they take a little thing, to a big whole situation. And I really learned a lot from them. Like, this girl, my grandma, I guess, she was just like, what did I say? I was like, oh my God, what is this word? What I said? She corrected me, and she was like, that's not a word, right? And I'm like, oh wow, for real? And we really looked it up, and it wasn't a word. I'm like, oh wow. So I really learned a lot from them, stuff that I wish I knew when I was their age. Yeah.
Wow. That's nice. A lot of the work we do here at Breaking Barriers, we try to work with the young men of color and help them mentally, because especially with the pandemic and everything going on within our lives and just the narrative that surrounds young men, especially young men of color, mentally we're not always going to be there. And so that part of our work, we also try to look at the policies that affect like young people of color, and specifically on the educational side, we looked at suspensions, offering more AP courses, and increasing the amount of teacher diversity. But from like your experience, like working with children, what would you think is the number one issue that you think like ties into the role of like their like mental, I wouldn't say illness, but like just poor mental health?
So my background is I'm social work. So I have my experience doing clinical work, but I've been in the school like my entire like professional career. Honestly, I think one of the things I struggle with is people's viewpoints on trauma. So I think obviously we all know everybody's got their trauma. It affects everybody very differently. What it looks like in people is very different across the board. But I also think that people can do better understanding it. So we come from a trauma-informed care focus. And I think we're doing a better job of implementing that across the board, whether it's school, the grocery store, cops, all that kind of stuff, right? I think we're doing a little bit better, but I also think too, like more can be done. So I think a lot of times working in the schools or summer camps, we see people like that I work with or with the same background, like see that trauma and we can work through it in a healthy way and we're not triggering, but not everybody sees that. So like, especially with school, how some teachers communicate, how some admin communicate, school staff in general communicate, they're not realizing that the tone of their voice or the words that they choose can be very triggering. So I think more can be done to help that, or just be more aware of the words that we choose and the things that we say and how we say it. And I think not everybody sees that bigger picture. So that's something I have a hard time with, working with other people who don't always have the mental health background. But I think the stigma is slowly breaking down a little bit. We still have a long way to go. But I think that's something I think has like a bigger impact on a lot of it. Same with like getting kids to do schoolwork and getting them to come to school. Like all of those things can sometimes be tied back to trauma experienced.
Yeah, and breaking barriers, like one of the things we have, I think that's very great, is the people that we have around us, right? So we have doctors, like lawyers, and college graduates like myself, and people going to college like Xavier, and we're all doing our own thing, and like amazing things. Just that, like role models, and also the social emotional component that you were kind of talking about earlier, like having that conversation. And we work with mainly like males of color. So in our environment, the emotional expression verbally is not always there.
Right.
And in our space, we allow that, and we allow dialogue and to talk about the things that, as a man, you wouldn't want to talk about, or it's kind of the unspoken world of like you just keep that hush hush, So I like that. And you said you do drill, right? Is that your way of kind of like finding coping and release?
Okay, so I grew up in the Landfill Projects. I've been living there for 13 years. So everything that goes on there, I just, it's a lot. So drill helped me escape it. So do work and school. And I used to have a group of friends that really used to like do like a lot of bad stuff. And I used to be one of them. And ever since I started drill, you know, in the job, they've been just like, oh, Kanisha, you've been acting different, or Kanisha, you just been changing. Like, what's going on? This whole job got your whole head messed up. They even call me whitewash. Like, it's just like, you know, and it took me like a long time to just like at Best Self, they taught me how if the friends is not on your same level, just leave them. Even if it hurt, you have to, because even if they never gonna change, you really have to. And I learned that because I was telling one of my friends what I wanted to be. Like, I feel like this job will take me out of here. I'm not saying I want to leave y'all, but I want to leave this whole environment. It's just not for me. And drill is really not helping either right now. So like, the only really thing is helping is Best Self and my job, because Best Self taught me how to, you know, even if they taught me how to, like, talk to my friends, like, listen to them instead of just being on my phone while they telling me something, because it really could be an emergency, or I'd be the only one I could help. But sometimes I really just can't do nothing about it. So I'm really the only one in my friend group that's really trying to make it out the projects with my mom, and my 3 siblings.
At Best Self, you guys do cooking as a part of your program.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Mm-hmm. And tell me what that's like. What is cooking like for the youth?
Yeah, so we got our funding for the Generator Z grant this past school year, which actually came from Student Voice and Choice. There was a whole student project that was put together. They had to choose a project, what they want to see in after-school programs across Best Self, all that kind of stuff, and cooking was one of the most sought-out projects. So we were able to take that back to Best Self, reach out to funding sources, and Gen Z came right back and was like, here you go. So this year was kind of the real big up and running for it. We've incorporated it into our high school programs, but also like our middle school programs too. So even the little kids get to kind of get their hands dirty and all that kind of stuff. So the cooking's been really great. Obviously, we know sometimes, kids are hungry. Food is a really big motivator. I can speak for that for myself. So it's a way to kind of get them involved, keep them in the program, but it also is teaching them daily life skills, right? Here's how you do this. Here's how you can read a recipe. If you can't find this ingredient, here's another ingredient you can use. My focus for incorporating it into South Park's after school program was really like student choice. So each week, okay, what are we thinking this week? And the kids would select whatever they wanted. So we made everything from handmade pastelillos to shrimp Alfredo was requested, to dumplings, to, even like the TikTok like crunch wrap. And that was like a fan favorite. None of them wanted to make it, but then I couldn't stop making it. So it was a really big hit to be able to have them try new things as well. These kids wanted all different kinds of foods. Some of them just obviously didn't work out that way. But they wanted different kind of African food and different kind of cultures and all these things that I wasn't expecting, but it was cool to kind of see them wanting to at least try new things. Or I would bring food to the table and they'd be like, I'm not eating that mess, and then would ask to take more home. So, but one of the biggest things too to tie into would be the conversations during dinner time. So we focused on having different cultural conversations, diversity conversations. The pastelillos was a way to kind of open up to that Hispanic heritage kind of culture, but then kind of digging a little bit more deep into like each individual's kids' culture. So like they were able to share, traditions, foods that they cook for different holidays or things like that, or other kind of things. So I was able to kind of get to know them on a more personal level, which kind of helped us build rapport in our relationships with the kids. But we would talk about how to have healthy relationships, because in high school, that is very important. So, different kind of topics each week for each different, segment. Really kind of got the kids to know each other on a different level, but also get to know us as the teachers, but also us getting to know them as more than just a kid who's here. So it was really cool to see one of the things that I made sure I did was I had one student in particular really loved the crunch wraps. And by the end of the year, he was running the crunch wrap lesson. So he was telling the kids how to do it. He was telling them how to make the sauce, how to do this, how to do that. So it was really kind of cool to see them turn around and be like, okay, this is what I learned. This is what I was taught. Now I can go home and make it myself, or I can tell somebody else how to make it. So I think being able to have those opportunities was really cool to see, because not many of those kids can do that.
Yeah.
Or I also tried to focus on like cheaper ingredients too, so that they could go to the store, buy the ingredients for not that much money, and go home and recreate it, or pull food from what they have at home so that they can put something together that's more than just like pasta or whatever, something simple. So it's been cool to see them grow. And I mean, every week, those same group of kids were there, and being able to kind of see them grow and talk to them more on a personal level about, you know, why coming to school is important, why doing our homework, why, you know, we could be doing this, and how many more opportunities there are when you take those necessary steps. So it's been cool to see, and we're hopeful next year we can kind of just keep pushing forward, bring in more outside vendors to kind of expand our you know, differences in cultures, because I can only make so much, but but the funding is great because we can bring in different vendors and have different activities and really tie in that healthy body kind of mindset, which a lot of kids I think can benefit from too, because a lot of them are just going to the store and get McDonald's, or like bringing McDonald's or Tim Hortons and all that kind of stuff for breakfast at school. So being able to give them a healthier option, or other things like that can really kind of teach them, okay, like, I know I got this. Yeah. What else can I do instead? So it's been cool to see.
Good.
I think what you did was like amazing, right? He found something that he liked, and you put him in a position to kind of improve his ability to like produce what he liked. And then he's kind of becoming a teacher, you know, when he's understood it more. And I think what you did, either intentionally or unintentionally, was help him find his niche very young, or talent, and kind of use that to work with the rest of his life, right? And I think more youth programs in general, or just programs in general, I think that they should have this way for the young people that come in to help them find their niche earlier, their talents, what they do well, excel in, right?
Absolutely.
And you're involved in the cooking program too. So, like, what are your dishes that you like to cook, and how do you kind of lead the youth through getting their things done?
I like pastelitos, but I tried the dumplings though. It wasn't my favorite, but I enjoyed making them. Pastelitos, I really enjoyed making them because we made them from scratch, and I never knew you could. You know, I'm used to buying the packs in the store, and I made it from scratch. You say what I learned? I'm sorry.
Well, so like you're working with the youth and getting them to cook well, making sure they're following instructions. What is that like? What is your process?
Make sure they follow directions.
Directions here.
All I do is I don't know. I don't know what to say. Sorry, I'm like under pressure. Okay.
So I think like with the summer camps, we haven't really been able to incorporate too much of Gen Z. Mostly because of the age group. We got everybody from like pre-K, like 5-year-olds to like 6th graders. So our plan was to kind of incorporate it throughout the summer, but just with funding and everything, it kind of just so we're really focusing on doing it after school. But I think even not doing it, we're still kind of implementing those same kind of skills in working with them in the summer camp. So I think like getting them to follow directions and listening and all that kind of stuff really can kind of be taken from like what you've learned and implementing it with the kids too. So I know our plan is to utilize the Gen Z as much as we can, but I think we can still take those pieces and implement it into the schools and the day camps, because I mean, we're still doing the similar things. We're just taking that food out of it.
You know, speaking of Generator Z, with the funding, we were able to establish this podcast itself, City Central, and for this last year, we have been going over many topics that we think that young people could engage in. We talk about relationships. We even talk about stuff young people, you would think young people don't talk about, but we actually pay attention to, in particular, the Russia and Ukraine war that was going on. Well, that's still going on at the time. And so we just feel that when we engage in those type of conversations to get the youth thinking and really help them become like better people, especially being more engaged like with what's going on in the community. And you know, some of my friends who have listened to the podcast talked about how like you made a good point here. Like I was thinking about that and just talking about how like we were being an inspiration to them, and you know, it kind of made me feel good. So I want to ask you guys, what's the overall impact do you think that your organization is really bringing to the city?
That's a tough one.
I know.
That's all right.
I think just giving our students like a voice and the ability to advocate for what they need. I think a lot of our programs, besides myself, we're all across Buffalo Public Schools and charter schools. I think all of us can kind of agree that like that student voice and them being able to choose the things that they want to see in our programs makes a huge difference, right? Because we can plan what we think is a great schedule, a great activity, all these kind of things, vendors, all that kind of stuff, when they can come in and be like, this isn't what I want. And then they stop coming. So I think by giving them a voice and giving them the opportunity and the skills to advocate for themselves, I think they can take those opportunities and those things that they learn to go into the community to advocate for those things that they need, whether it's education, whether it's employment, whether it's, you know, housing, all those kind of things, those daily living kind of necessities, but also like their emotions, how they're feeling, being able to communicate, being able to have the resources to link with mental health, being able to get out of maybe an unhealthy relationship or whatever that might be. I think that's kind of our overall arching, like, big thing that we really focus on, and we've had some really good success with it. But I also think, too, we're teaching them those skills that they might not have the opportunity to learn. One of our things for the summer program and our summer youth kids we do every week is current events. So we have the kids get on their phones, search up the news, search up anything on Google, whatever comes up, something that they might not have known has gone on. And they each share whatever current event that they found, and we have a whole open discussion on it. So giving them the opportunity to figure out what's going on in our neighborhood, what's going on in the country, what's going on in the world, right? So, you know, yesterday we had the conversations of the war or, you know, the whole FBI seizure and that kind of stuff. So hearing their opinion, I really enjoy, because they don't always get the opportunity to do so. So I like that they're asking questions and that they're finding out information and they're doing the research that maybe they don't always think to do, but also we can give answers that they might not be able to have those conversations. After the shootings happened, being able to go into the schools and have conversations with our littles or our high school kids and really kind of give them an open space, a safe space to share their feelings and ask their questions, and being able to have those honest conversations, I think is really important, because they don't always have that option. Or sometimes parents don't know what to say or whatever the outcome is. So I think being able to have those open conversations, but also giving them a voice to share and advocate for themselves, I think has been a really eye-opening experience. And I appreciate getting the opportunity to like have those experiences with them.
Great. Have you had experience with the advocacy portion of that? Like, how have you used your voice to kind of promote a way of thinking in a group or within your own community, with your own family?
How did I use my voice? They say, you know, actions speak louder than words, so I really didn't use my voice. I just showed them what I'd be doing, but like it's their choice. It's their choice to like follow in my footsteps. I don't force them to. I really do want them to come with me, but at the same time, it's just their choice. Really, I really can't say. It's really so much you can say to people.
Gotta be a role model.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But I think too, like, and there have been a few times this year where we've maybe had more difficulty or a struggle with maybe a coworker or a situation that happened that we didn't know how to handle. And I think Kanisha's been really great of like coming to myself or another staffer or anybody to kind of be like, hey, this is something I'm experiencing. This is kind of how I'm feeling. What can we do about it? Or how can I handle this situation? And she's really taking that advice or working through those situations in a really positive way. So I think she is advocating for herself when she is in a situation where she's not feeling or she's feeling uncomfortable or she's feeling uncertain. She's making sure that somebody else knows about it. So I think she's done a good job of, maybe don't always know that we're advocating for ourselves, but I think she really does a good job of standing up for herself and like what she believes in, and she's learning from those experiences and she's taking what she learns and going forward.
Nice. All right. So, any final words of wisdom before we head out? Any
No.
message? You sure?
No advice for anybody? What you wish you knew you were near?
I would say like, don't give up at all. Even where you came from or when you feel like it's like the end, don't give up. Just keep pushing. That's all. Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that. Amen.
Yeah, I just think, I really enjoy getting to work in all the avenues that we do, and I think Best Self has been a great opportunity for our youth that we work with, and I'm really excited to kind of move forward and see how this year goes and being able to offer all our students those opportunities that they might not always have, and just encouraging them to keep doing their best and advocating for themselves, because I think that's how most things get done.
Advocacy is
any social media you want to put out there for yourselves or Best Self? Have people follow you or check out what you got?
Best Self's on everything. So give it a follow. You can Facebook, Instagram. Building Better Futures has their own Instagram or Facebook. So that is kind of where all our great programs kind of get posted. So our Saturday academies, our community schools, we really focus on getting that out to the community. So Building Brighter Futures at Best Self, their Facebook is a great opportunity for all those resources.
All right. So that's all we got for you today, guys. Again, please follow Best Self on all social media platforms, no matter what it was. Facebook, Instagram.
I think so.
Curious, you got a Snapchat?
I don't think so.
Okay, no Snapchat, but you got still follow on Facebook, Instagram, and any other platforms. Again, we want to give a huge shout out to Best Self. We love the work you guys are doing in the community. We also want to give a huge thanks to Generator Z for giving us the funding to be able to do work like this. And we also want to give a quick shout out to Breaking Barriers Buffalo and Say Yes Buffalo for being our parent organization. And that's all we got for you today, guys, and hope you have a blessed and wonderful day. Take care.